professionals across Manitoba are pulling together and coming up with ways to keep the public safe from Ebola. And while that collaboration may seem very positive, Daryl Horn says it could be cause for concern. He's a system safety advisor for healthcare safety systems and accountability. It's an international consulting group dedicated to patient safety. Hi there, Daryl.
Hi, Marilyn.
So why are you concerned about groups of doctors and other healthcare professionals coming together to fight Ebola?
Well, the primary concern, and there are great lessons to be learned from aviation safety in this. Pilots don't learn how to deal with an engine failure on the day the red light comes on. It's a matter of professional practice to simulate, drill, and drill over again. So you're prepared at any given moment for a wide variety of crises. The problem that we seem to be dealing with, and is coming out a little bit from the frontline providers themselves, that they don't feel prepared in that way. They're dealing with a potential crisis situation with potential devastating results in a very ad hoc manner. They haven't felt like they've been fundamentally prepared using that paradigm of training and preparation.
Okay, so saying that they're not prepared, can you just give me an example of what that might mean and how it might manifest itself?
Well, one of the problems that's been alluded to in the transmission case in Texas was a potential problem with donning and doffing protective gear materials, and safely handling and deal with that. And if you're not familiar with a particular kind of protection suit, face masks, shields, those sorts of things, you've never taken them on off before in a potentially contaminated environment. If you're not being observed by another person who has expert knowledge to provide you with feedback to do it safely, even in a simulated environment, without the added element of, I won't say panic, but grave personal concern, it could be very, very, very difficult to execute properly the first time. You know, you can have the best recipe in the world that you downloaded off the internet, but you don't want to bake your first cherry pie on the day the in-laws are coming for dinner.
Now, you also mentioned concern about, health officials and doctors and everybody coming together under this crisis situation, and just, some of the stress that puts on these groups. So can you just explain a little bit about your concern there?
Well, it's a common concern in healthcare. It's called ad hoc team organization, and it's ubiquitous in healthcare environments where people have to come together very rapidly, providers from different disciplines. A perfect example is a code blue team in a hospital. And the first people there have to organize very rapidly, establish hierarchy, and have a very, very effective communication techniques based on acquired discipline to execute something that's common to them, like cardiac resuscitation, something that they do regularly and normally. Even in those environments, if the team organization isn't effective, we often see breakdowns in care. Now, throw into the mix the added concern of the unfamiliar, and like I said, a potential sense of, oh my gosh, it's Ebola. It's a potential recipe for disaster.
But haven't our healthcare professionals, received training like this with dealing with SARS or with H1N1?
Well, there are a lot of similarities, but it's very important to remember that the vectors of transmission for infection are very different between Ebola and SARS. So while there are some common things, there are other things that are critically important in the processes that have to be observed, on that basis. So this is an opportunity for the healthcare system to examine itself. What I find very interesting is the frontline providers, nurses and people in the first responder community and everything that have come forward and say, we don't feel safe, we don't feel prepared. Now, it's not me saying that, it's them. They're the ones at the sharp end. And if they don't have full confidence in their ability to execute properly, then we need to listen to that. We need to pay attention. It's not just a matter for the WRHA. While they play a fundamental role in this, it's a matter for the Minister of Health as well in a position of oversight to ensure that no matter what the jeopardy, no matter what the next thing that comes down the line, whether it's a bird flu or another outbreak of SARS, we need to be prepared on a broader basis to deal on that ad hoc basis, both as small work teams and as huge organizations, interdisciplinary teams that have to come together, that have never come together before in a similar fashion to deal rapidly, and like I said, not in a second chance environment.
But so you're saying this isn't happening now. These teams are not practicing these scenarios. They're not prepared for these different, scenarios that you're presenting. Is that what you're saying? That's what's happening in our healthcare system?
I think the Manitoba Nurses Union is saying, I think first responders are saying it. Within the community of healthcare practitioners that I communicate with regularly, I hear a great deal of concern.
Okay, so what needs to be done? I mean, I'm wondering how you feel about the steps that WRHA has taken so far.
Well, I don't feel fully qualified to comment on that because I haven't seen a great deal of transparency in terms of exactly what steps have been taken. They say steps have been taken. They say there's a plan in place. Once again, I'm responding more to what the people who have to implement that plan are saying publicly, which is an unusual situation, and that in itself is a cause for concern. These things tend to be dealt with very much in-house. And when frontline providers are this concerned and they're willing to speak out, I think it's cause for all of us to sit up and take notice and recognize that it's not just about Ebola. It's about whatever the next thing coming down the line is. Ebola could happen here and it might not, but we are connected to the rest of the world by plane, train, boat, bicycle, and footpath.
So how then do we need to be preparing? What should we be doing?
Well, we should be adopting an awful lot of the best practices from other industries like aviation, high reliability organizations that are resilient, that put safety first, to make it a fundamental part of the training on an ongoing and recurrent basis. We need to reestablish and create those opportunities for healthcare providers to receive training before it becomes a potential crisis, before the red light comes on.
Well, it's an interesting analogy. Thanks so much for coming in today, Daryl, and speaking with us about it. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for the opportunity, Mary.
So that's Daryl Horn. He's the System Safety Advisor for Healthcare System Safety and Accountability.